Hello and welcome to this special broadcast on WION. My name is Mohammed Saleh. Now, Sudan's army has confirmed that it has lost control of the El-Fasher city a day after the rapid support forces said that they've taken over the city and the whole region of Darfur. The capture of El-Fasher marks a significant turning point in Sudan's war. The city's capture gives the RSF control over all 5 state capitals in Darfur, and the army is now pushed pretty much to the north, the east and the center of Sudan, and has been excluded from almost about a third of the Sudanese territory. So what does this decisive rout of the Sudanese armed forces from El-Fasher mean for Sudan, and how will this impact the region at large? To discuss this, we're joined on the broadcast all the way from Cairo in Egypt by Mr. Bastein Massa, who's a journalist who specializes in Sudanese affairs. Has in fact been documenting Sudan and also the changes that the country has undergone due to the various political events that include the revolution, the coup d'etat and the war. Mr. Massa, thank you very much indeed for joining us here on WION.
Good evening, Mohammed.
Good evening. Now, the question that I want to start off with, Mr. Massa, is this. The fact that El-Fasher had been under siege for the last 18 months and the RSF has now managed to oust the Sudanese army from this crucial city, the capital of the Darfur region. In your assessment, how does this impact the future of Sudan?
It's quite a big turnover in the current war. If we come back a bit earlier, like at the beginning of this year, the Sudanese army managed to expel the rapid support forces from the capital Khartoum. So they managed some significant territorial gain in Khartoum, and they were going even further, like retaking around El-Obeid and gaining some land in Gezira and in South Sudan. But now, with the capture of El-Fasher, RSF managed to change and to give a new trend to this war, and now they have the 5 capitals of Darfur, as you mentioned, and they also have with El-Fasher the road to East Darfur, to East Sudan, and to Khartoum, the capital. So from this city, from El-Fasher, they can now gather their troops and their planes and launch in a more easily way offensive and attacks against the rest of Sudan.
It's interesting that you mentioned that it was the Sudanese army which had the momentum with it when it ousted the RSF from Khartoum. And a lot of people expected that probably that was a decisive moment in this war where the Sudanese forces will have an upper hand over the RSF. But that is clearly not what has happened, because what now appears to be the fate of Sudan is that it has been divided into pockets of control where the RSF controls nearly about 1/3 of the country, while in the other parts, the Sudanese army seems to have the upper hand. Why do you think the Sudanese army has faltered in places such as El-Fasher?
So, they managed quite successfully to retake the capital, Khartoum, but when they launched the offensive more west, toward Darfur, it's a region that is quite well controlled by RSF. They have their supply chains, while the Sudanese army is more in the east of the country. So every time they want to launch an attack, it's more logistic. It's more like you have to think about oil, weapons, and how to carry the people the soldiers to the western part of the country. So RSF has always been quite at ease in this western part of the country. It's like a lot of flat lands. Their own soldiers who come from the nomad tribes, the Arabic nomad tribes, have been living in this region. So they have local support, and they know the field, they know this region, and they have been specialized in quick, in fast offensive with small, for example, small Toyota pickups with a douche car on the top, and they go, they loot or they kill or they burn a village, and they come back. So they are really they have this mobility that is really helpful in this kind of region, while the army is a bigger a bigger element to move, and to every offensive of the army can be quite successful, but like to pursue it, it's quite hard.
Now, there is a lot of concern about, what happens to the population within El-Fasher, where a lot of people have raised concerns about especially the non-Arab population in the city. Do we have reports that are coming out from El-Fasher as to what is happening at this moment to the non-Arab population there?
Yeah, so there is quite a media blackout in El-Fasher, so it's really hard for the civilian population to communicate. But what we have is a video filmed by the RSF soldiers themselves. And in these videos, they film themselves without even trying to hide their crimes, committing mass execution. And you have like dozens of video on the internet for the past 2 days of RSF soldiers executing and killing civilians trying to flee the city. The latest estimation is between 2,000 to 10,000 civilians already killed by the militia. And you have this incredible fact is that from the satellite images that we got from El-Fasher, we can say that they are doing door-to-door to kill the people belonging to non-Arab tribes. And which is even more crazy is that you can see the blood stains from the satellite images of the people killed inside El-Fasher.
All right. Now, although the RSF in its defense says that it is not targeting civilians, it is going after the fighters who still remain in the city of El-Fasher. This is what RSF is claiming. Now, the question that I want to ask you, Mr. Massa, is this. It's just a little over a decade that Sudan was partitioned into North Sudan and South Sudan. Are we now looking again at the possibility that Sudan could be dismembered into these different zones of influence where the RSF may try to carve out a separate entity in Darfur, nearly about 1/3 of the country that it controls, and the Sudanese army could remain in charge of the rest of Sudan?
So it's clearly the situation de facto. The Sudanese army and the Port Sudan government is controlling the eastern part of Sudan, and RSF are controlling the western part of Sudan, like Darfur and some part of Kordofan. They even created or nominated this spring, a new government, like a government of peace. So they are trying to give themselves a kind of legitimacy, a political legitimacy, but we have to be careful, because we could think that they only want to control their own part of Sudan and to divide Sudan, but what they really want is to go further and to have a control of all Sudan. So we should expect more fighting and even more offensive, like on eastern part of Sudan. It's not the end of the war. That's
precisely what I wanted to ask you, because once El-Fasher has been captured by the RSF, do you think the RSF and the Sudanese army may have some kind of negotiations and talks, or do you think that these two factions will go on fighting for the foreseeable future?
It was quite interesting to notice that at the same time that RSF were committing this massacre in El-Fasher, some representatives of RSF and Sudanese army were present in Washington, D.C. to have this kind of informal discussion. But both have been saying that they would not accept negotiation. Right. And especially in the south, in the Sudanese armed force group, a lot of components are pushing the Sudanese government and the army to go until the end and to take this, to have like a victory, a military victory, and not just a political negotiation that would let the RSF survive in the political spectrum of Sudan.
Interesting. We'll have to see as to what happens in Sudan from here on. Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Bastein Massa, for joining us all the way from Cairo in Egypt with our perspective there.
You're welcome, Mohammed. Thanks.